I'm Dean Allison, and welcome back to the Hill Update. I've got an update for you on the issue most Canadians have heard of, the We charity scandal. The Liberal government almost gave $900 million to this charity to fund a student aid program. Trudeau's mother, his brother, and his wife, who also attended charity events and were paid more than $450,000 for giving speeches and attending We charity events. This scandal spiraled so out of control that Bill Morneau resigned and Trudeau prorogued Parliament late last year in the hopes of letting the dust settle. Unfortunately for them, the opposite is happening. This week, the Ethics Committee brought in the co-founders of We Charity, Craig and Mark Kielburger, to testify again. At first, the Kielburgers were not happy about returning to committee. After some back and forth discussions, the Kielburgers agreed to come back. Craig Kielburger got into a heated exchange with Pierre Poilievre. Here's a part of that exchange.
What was the role exactly of Mr. Chen, senior advisor to the Prime Minister, in setting up this program?
I don't think he had any role in it.
Mr. Is that the answer for both of you?
Yes, that's correct. Who are you referring to, sir? Can you repeat this, please?
Ben Chin.
There's no role.
Craig, no role?
Not that I'm aware of.
Then why did you send him a message on LinkedIn on June 27th saying, "Hello, Ben. Thank you for your kindness in helping shape our latest program with the government. Warmly, Craig."
Sure. So I sent 100 messages because I only had 8 people on LinkedIn before that. And so that day, 100 messages went out. My EA sent them to people to join on LinkedIn, and he was one of them.
Yes.
I actually didn't, but
sorry,
my EA did.
Craig, this is your message. It's signed by you. And if I could be clear, it doesn't just say, "I wish you well." It says, Ben, excuse me, "Thank you for your kindness in helping shape our latest program with the government. Warmly, Craig." You sent that. Did you not?
I don't dispute that was sent. But
sorry. You've got yourself in a lot of trouble here. You've just said a moment ago you thought that the Prime Minister's senior advisor, Mr. Chen, had no role in the establishment of the program, but I have correspondence where you thanked him for helping shape that very program. So why did you thank him for shaping the program when now you claim you didn't know he played any role in the program?
My EA wanted to personalize, and very kindly, as a great EA, wrote a few lines to 100 different LinkedIn requests that went that same day to different people to join my LinkedIn page.
No, but this was not a mess. Excuse me, Craig, you're in a lot of trouble here, my friend. You're under oath. Perjury is a crime. Excuse me. You said a moment ago that you thought the Prime Minister's chief advisor had no role in establishing this program. Your message to him did not say, "Thank you for joining me on LinkedIn." It said, "Thank you for your kindness in helping shape our latest program with the government. Warmly, Craig." So which is it? I want to ask you clearly. Did you know that Mr. Chin was playing a role in establishing this program? Yes or no?
No.
There is more being hidden from the public. As this saga continues, we'll likely revisit it in a future show. The second item for this week's Hill Update is the situation around vaccines. At the beginning of this month, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization, or NACI, announced that the second shot of the Pfizer vaccine be delayed from the recommended 21 days to 4 months. Canada is now an outlier in the global vaccination rollout. No other country in the world has delayed second doses up to 4 months, and there's no evidence yet on the long-term effect it could have on immunity to COVID-19. Is this truly a scientific decision, or simply a decision to help Justin Trudeau reach his unrealistic targets? There has been reporting as to the media as to whether or not the AstraZeneca vaccine is safe for those over the age of 65. And in fact, several countries have stopped its use completely until further study. In a reversal of its own decision, NACI is now recommending that the vaccine is safe to be used on people aged 65 or older. This decision reverses guidelines made earlier this month. And that is your update for this week. When we come back, we'll be talking with Lorraine Simpson, who is a multi-award winning veteran travel industry professional and a CityLine TV travel expert. Welcome back to the Hill Update. It's great to have Lorraine Simpson on our show today. Lorraine has spent the last year without one single booking, and so she has spent her time as a consultant trying to help other companies rebound after the pandemic. So here we are, Lorraine. We have got a major issue going on in the travel agency right now. You've done a whole bunch. You've got a lot of vast experience. So why don't you just talk to us? I think we should talk about two things. What's going on in Canada in terms of the industry? What's going on when it comes to individuals, such as travel agents and those kinds of things. So why don't you just tell us, how bad is it really?
It's really bad because, in every industry, it's been hard hit. But let's take just the travel industry in itself. We can't do takeout. We can't actually get bookings for and get paid until people travel. And if they can't travel, then we can't get anything. There was a government grant issued, a small business grant, and it specifically excluded travel agents. How can we survive? So we've had no money for an entire year. My last booking was February 2020. So it's a matter of, pivot, do something different, try and figure it out. But the transferable skills of travel industry is a little hard. It's a little difficult. And when there's so many of us.
How many travel agents or booking agents or would there be in the country? Any idea approximately? And then we'll start talking about some of the other industries that are a knock-on effect, like airlines and hotels.
Yeah, there's well over 100,000 travel agencies in
Wow.
Canada, and then there are smaller independents, so people that work from home, and they just have, they're like a home-based business, and then they just get paid for commission. So whenever you get commission, that's your pay, but you don't get paid until they travel. There's no service fee. So if they cancel, like take me for example, last year when all this hit, people were calling me because they knew me from Cityline, and they were saying, one lady, I'm stuck in Morocco. Nobody will help me. I booked online. Help me. Can you get home? I can't get home. My flight's been cancelled. Nobody will answer the phone, and I'm completely stuck. And then, of course, everybody's weddings got cancelled. I do a lot of groups. The groups were cancelled. We're supposed to be going to Andrea Bocelli at his villa in Italy, and that was cancelled. We're supposed to be going to it again this year. I don't think that's going to happen. But all these cancellations we do, we're working for free. We're not actually getting paid for all the extra work that we have to do to cancel it all and rebook it all. So I think the value out of this is that the travel agent is going to be seen as the hero of the hour, because they're going to be seen that we did so much that was over and above that online booking engines were not able to provide.
No kidding. That's where you really see the service. So talk to me about airlines. I've heard a number of figures, like airlines in the US are down 50%. Maybe that's changing because they're starting to open up. And ours are down 90%. Can you give us any more insight into what's going on in airlines, hotels here as it relates to Canada, domestic?
So I'm a little jealous of our friends down in the USA at the moment, because they seem to be rebounding quicker than us. Their numbers are up. People are starting to travel. Here in Canada, it's not possible. And we'll talk a bit more about that later as to why it's not possible. But the airlines have invested millions upon millions to keep us extra safe. Their airline filtration systems, the way that they've brought in extra safety measures, it's nothing short of miraculous what they've done. So airline travel has never been safer. And at the moment, there are domestic flights available, and there are international flights available too, because of course there's those people who just have to travel. They don't have a choice. They either have to go for work or to see family or to see somebody who might be sick. There's reasons that people have to travel as an emergency. So there are flights available, but it's just that we're not necessarily able to fly right now.
I've seen some of the videos you've done at the airports, and I haven't been actually in an airport for a year because I drive to Ottawa. They're empty. They're absolutely empty. It's very sad to see.
It's really sad to see. I went through the airport, and the first time I went through, I did a bit of a skip and a jump and a twirl around in the airport because I was so happy. I really love the smell of airline fuel. So to just get out of the car and go, oh, it's like airline fuel, it's like an aphrodisiac, and it really is. I am a very passionate traveler wherever I'm going, even if I'm going to Niagara on the Lake to do some wine tasting, or if I'm going to Australia, it doesn't matter. It's all an experience. And at the airport, I was blown away at how incredibly clean it was, and the extra measures, things like touchless check-in. Air Canada has brought in
Lorraine,
this technology
let's hold
now
that thought. We got to go for break. Let's finish that when you come back.
Okay.
Joining me on the show today is Lorraine Simpson, a travel expert. We were talking just briefly before we left for a break about the airports and how clean they are. Then we're going to start talking about internationally, because it's a good segue to talk about what's going on around the rest of the world. But finish your thoughts on our airports here in this country.
Just super clean. Everybody has gone over and above. They literally, it's millions of dollars that they've invested. But things like touchless check-in, I think these type of things will stay with us. Nothing's going to change in the future. We will have a lot more safety measures that we didn't have before that will stay onwards. That I think that's the case. Good.
So let's talk about what's going on internationally. I know if I go to your website, you've got all broken down what the requirements are, whether you need tests or this or that for every country. Why don't we talk about where Canadians go, which is places like Florida, the Caribbean, and then Europe. Why don't we sort of talk about those three in terms of what the requirements are to travel there and what the challenges are?
Well, a lot of places are starting to open up. So Peru opened up yesterday. Iceland opened up yesterday. Some places are going to open up with different requirements. Of course, it changes all the time. Italy went back into lockdown that we didn't expect to happen. Sicily is not in lockdown. England is going to come out of this very well. I think that they're up to about 36 million people that they vaccinated at the moment, which has greatly reduced their numbers. So I think they'll come out of it quite well, and will be probably able to travel there by the summer. I think by the summer, and I did say this last year, so I'm really touching wood right now, but I think by the summer, things will start to look better, certainly for the countries where they've got the vaccinations in arms. Other places will need requirements, will need testing, will need to do that. But that's where your travel agent comes in. You're going to be able to call your travel agent and ask them, what do I need? Because they're all gearing up. The good ones are really gearing up to find out and make sure that they are well equipped to tell you what today's rules are, because it may differ from yesterday's rules. Things are changing daily, all the time. But Europe is going through a third wave right now. And, they hopefully that will be done and dusted, because we are getting better at being able to manage the lockdowns. But I think this third wave is something that we didn't expect.
So when you talk about open up like Iceland and some of these other countries, are you saying they were actually closed to foreign travel, or open up meaning if you have a vaccine or you have a test, it will be okay? What are the different requirements?
So some places are asking for the vaccine and a test, because the vaccine isn't necessarily just the silver bullet. So you could, in theory, still carry the COVID virus if you have had the vaccine in some cases. So they are asking for a test and a vaccine. Places like Peru have opened up completely. You don't need anything now. Belize, again, it's at the moment you need a test to enter. But in the future, within a month, they're looking at opening up completely. Most places that you go to right now, you are going to need to have a test within 72 hours. And that's most countries around the world, if they're open. Places like Vietnam, Thailand, Australia, New Zealand, there's no end in sight there. They have done amazingly well. However, they're not looking to open up their borders for people. Now, the US-Canada border, we're hoping that will open up and bring in testing, strong testing on arrival, but not this airport or hotel quarantine, which is very, very restrictive. But once that opens up, we need these tourists. Niagara Falls, we need the tourists. Toronto, Ottawa, We need the people to come in, and we need them to come in safely and not be a jeopardy to our own citizens.
So we just got about a minute left in this segment. So very quickly, right? In terms of, it almost seems like it's more complicated to come into Canada with a 14-day quarantine versus anything else that's going on in the world. You talked about Peru that's got no issues. I'm going to guess that we're probably some of the strictest in the world. And when we come back for break, we'll certainly talk more about that. But would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. We are at the moment the most difficult country to get into, as far as country that is, I mean, tourism can't come in anyway, but the rules are so messed up, and don't even get me started on that, but they are so messed up.
Well, you know what we'll do when we come back from break. We are going to get you going on that. We're going to talk about what what needs to be done and what needs to happen here in Canada and abroad as we move forward. Let's talk about rapid testing. Let's talk about vaccinations. Let's talk about a bunch of things out there in order to get traveled, in order to get tourism going again. So when we come back from the break, we're talking to Lorraine Simpson, travel expert, and she'll give us her thoughts on reopening the travel industry. Joining me on the show today, I have Lorraine Simpson talking about travel, all things travel. So Lorraine, talk to us. Before the break, we were talking about what do we need to do? We're one of the most restrictive countries in the world. So not only is it tough getting out of Canada, it's tough coming home. So how do we do tourism? Talk to us about some of the things that we can do to try and reopen our economy when it relates to tourism, and more specifically what you do.
There's so much that we could do better. We are absolutely screwing up. We are a meme to other countries. In England, we are a meme. People use Canada as a joke. So, for example, you get into Canada, but you need a test before you arrive in Canada. You arrive in Canada and you get tested on arrival, along with everybody else. You're intermingling with everybody else at the airport. Then you go into a line with everybody else. Well, then you have to go to your quarantine hotel on a bus with everybody else, including somebody that may have flown in from a domestic airport. And so you're on a bus with everyone. Then you check in at the hotel that you've paid up to $3,000 for. You check into the hotel, and bear in mind, you can only check into the hotel if you've tested negative, and you've tested negative before you arrived in Canada. You get to your check-in hotel, which has probably taken you 7 hours to even try and book, if you could book it. You then check in with everybody around you who is just a regular folk. And then, and that's the time where you might be contagious, so you have to go into quarantine until your test results come back. But I've intermingled with all these other people in the meantime. It's absolutely asinine, and it makes no sense. And there are people out there that can fix this. There's companies that have apps. You know, the Wallet Pass that we have on our smartphone? The Wallet Pass, the company that owns that actually has created a pass so that it causes like a little bubble for people to be having their testing. So now you can put your credit cards in it and you can put your boarding passes in it, but they also have the way of putting your testing in and your vaccination proof and all of that. And all you would need to do is show it. We're good to go, and it creates a bubble. So it's being worked on for the NCAA tournament in Vegas. Thousands and thousands of people, no issues. There are things that can be done, and they're not doing it, and they're not doing it right. And we are a joke.
So what have you seen that would make some sense? Maybe just a simple rapid test upon arrival, or you've seen what other countries require. In your opinion, what would be enough to make people feel safe, but also be practical and efficient at the same time?
Yeah, so I think a test before you get into Canada, even before you get on a plane, great. Even a rapid test at the airport before you get on the plane, so you know full well, just like Delta Airlines is doing at the moment, it's a complete COVID-free plane because everybody has been tested to get on that plane. On arrival, if you want to do another test, great, that's fine. Go home, do a 3-day quarantine, test comes back negative, I think you're then good to go. We should also have a tracing app so that if you have been in a bubble close to somebody within the last few days, then that at least traces you without revealing any private information. But there's a way of tracing you so that we know, you've been close to somebody that had tested positive. So there's definitely ways to do this, but Canada is not listening. And the USA are using this technology that is available out there, and not just from Loop Insights, but IATA has the same sort of technology. There's several companies that are doing it that is available to our government to use right now, and they're choosing not to.
30 seconds, just quickly. I guess quarantine hotels act as pretty much a discouragement to travel at all.
Well, you can, and it's not just that. I'm totally willing to go into a quarantine hotel. I've got to go to a conference in April. I can't go. Why? Because the shaming is worse than the quarantine hotel. I'm more than happy to do absolutely everything that the government is asking me, but the shaming, I could lose my job, and I'm not willing to lose my City Line gig for somebody saying to me, "Hey, she traveled and you were told not to." No, it's for work, yes, but I'm not prepared to do it. I love my job more than I need to go to this conference and be their speaker.
Lorraine, thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Looks like there's so much more we could do if we want to encourage our tourism industry, or even maybe save it. And probably one of the first things would be to look at quarantine hotels and testing as people arrive back from their trips, wherever they are. Thank you for joining me this week on The Hill Update.